All right, let's get going. Again, I'm Yolie Flores, President and CEO of Families in Schools. Welcome, everyone. I'm thrilled about today's discussion called Parents as Change Agents for Reading Success. Our focus is on the incredible power of parent voices, how when parents speak, systems truly do shift. I am a former school board member at the Los Angeles Unified School District, and I will tell you, when parents spoke, we listened. So we never want to underestimate that power. Across California, families are not waiting on change anymore. They are starting to drive it. From organizing in their communities to advocating for evidence-based literacy practices, we're giving them the language. They're using language like science of reading, to knowing how to support their children at home and advocate for them at school. Parents are leading the charge to ensure that every child becomes a confident and successful reader. And that's our job. You're going to hear from inspiring leaders. I'm going to introduce them in a minute. And moi, I will also be sharing. We are in California building a powerful base of parents as change makers and showing what is possible when families and schools work together to turn the promise of literacy into a reality for all children. So I'm going to introduce our panelists. They're going to share with you the work they have been doing to help build that parent power so that you have some inspiration, some ideas, some tools, some resources. And they'll talk a little bit about lessons learned in their work, and then any advice they have for all of you that are with us today. We'll leave, if they give us some time back, some time for Q&A at the end of our presentation. We'll each take about 6 to 7 minutes, so this is going to go really fast. All right, let me introduce our wonderful panel. So first is Dr. Jordan Goines. He is the Assistant Superintendent of Fiscal Services at the Goleta Union School District, where he leads a push towards the equitable distribution of resources to support students, staff, and families. He carries with him over 20 years of experience as a passionate educator, researcher, and family advocate dedicated to improving outcomes for all students and supporting the whole child. Next is my wonderful friend, Denise Morgan. She is a parent and family advocate who I first met through our mutual engagement with the Evidence Advocacy Center, which you're going to hear about. Denise has been a strong advocate and volunteer with the California State PTA, and she is the president of the 3rd District PTA here in California. In that capacity, she and her leadership team support PTAs in more than 145 schools in the Sacramento area. For those of you out of state, Sacramento is the northern part of California, and including surrounding counties. And then my other friend and colleague, Moloney, she is the Director of Data and Policy at Go Public Schools. Her work there includes leading literacy policy and advocacy work, as well as creating data reports and resources to equip families and community leaders to advocate for educational equity. Previously, she has worked as an elementary educator, a literacy coach, a data administrator, and a researcher. She knows what she is talking about. With that, let me invite Jordan to kick us off, share his experiences, the work he has been doing. You might also talk about Lancaster, Jordan, which is where, you've done amazing work previously. So welcome, and the floor is all yours.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Yolie. First of all, I am going to mainly talk about the work that we did in Lancaster. I've encompassed a new role in the Goleta Union School District and working with the fiscal and the finance piece of the district as a whole. So this has been, although I'm bringing in the family aspect and all that past work that we've done in the past, that I've done in the past in Lancaster, that our teams have done in the past in Lancaster. I really want to focus in that particular area. So I do have a couple of slides I'm going to show, just because I want to bring in some practical understanding and some of the research that we actually did with these pieces. And I'm hopefully going to be able to do this because it is a new kind of computer for me. can you all see?
Yes, we see this beautiful ocean with some rocks.
That's not what I was looking for yet.
Okay,
But
yeah, we see the dual capacity framework.
all right, cool. Thank you. I'm going to try and take this out of the way and slideshow. All right. So, oops, I'm going to go the other way. First of all, I want to start us off by introducing myself a little bit. Again, I'm Dr. Jordan Goines, currently Assistant Superintendent of Fiscal Services in Goleta, formerly Director of Continuous Improvement, Compliance, and Accountability in Lancaster School District, which gave me the ability to have a significant amount of impact in a bunch of different areas, mainly in the strategic planning and working with LCAPs in schools and coaching principals and working in that particular area for the last 10 years. So as I was doing that work, we came to the understanding that there was a serious need to be able to build the capacity of parents to actually get to what we were trying to get to the impact that we were trying to get to for our students in Lancaster. And a lot of work was done in our district having to do with various grants, CLSD grant, a couple other reading grants that we received throughout the school years. A couple people in this room actually sat on some of those wonderful meetings with me when we were trying to plan those early works of literacy in Lancaster. And given in all those pieces, there was a lot of great things came from it. So looking into it, I want to jump in and start the conversation with this idea that leading change, or leading the charge with vision is the most important piece to anything that we're going to end up doing. So even if you're talking about bringing in literacy, if you're talking about bringing in family engagement, whatever you're talking about doing in a school system or any system for that matter, leadership absolutely starts at the top with a vision. And you can't do anything without that vision, and you can't do anything without knowing where you're getting ready to go and what your absolute outcome is going to be. In family engagement, this is often not thought about, because with family engagement and with our families, and when we charge literacy to families, those pieces are generally left out, because we think that, because a lot of times schools and systems look at families as either a hurdle or something that we have to get through, or something that we just have to do, almost like a compliance piece, as opposed to empowering that situation to be what it could be in every specific aspect. Lancaster took a different approach to that. Family engagement turned into something that was supposed to be that turned into something that was we want to do this, we want to make this happen, we want to work with our community, we don't just want to use our community as a look at our community as a hurdle. We want to do the right thing with our community and by our community. We spoke with our leaders about this on a consistent basis through our leadership meetings and many of our PLC times, and all of the time that we spent with our leaders about. So you're going to be working on focusing on literacy because we're low with our reading scores. If you're going to do this, how are you going to impart this information to your families? How are you going to work with your families in this particular space? So we kept on we hammered that in with our leaders. We hammered that in with our coaches. That was the focus that we were doing in our curriculum team, and led at that time by Krista Thompson, or at this time currently by Krista Thompson, really hit that particular nail in the coffin, making sure that we were always coming back to that idea of how we were going to do that work. I like to say this specifically with family engagement. On the whole, you have to Maslow before you can bloom. You got to treat, before you're going to get to the point where you can start working with your families about literacy or math or science or how to build a steam engine plane or whatever. You have to make sure that they have a relationship with you. And that's where we focus. That's where I came in and we focused a lot of our work. And I got to say, Leslie Zeroy was a super helpful with that particular piece in introducing us to some areas to be able to do some work that we had already thought about, but we just didn't have the funds to be able to do it at the time. So we took advantage of it to the utmost extent. And we also understood that was going to require training of all aspects of the system. So in that particular space, we started with the idea of identifying what our core beliefs were going to end up being. The core beliefs that we look to, first of all families have dreams for their children. You can't do anything if we don't all believe that our families have the best aspects of their children in mind and really want to do that work for our kids. Core belief number 2 that we developed was all families have the capacity to support their children's learning. That was absolutely important to us, that at whatever degree, if it was just nailing off math facts, even though that's like low level math, if that was something they could practice with their kids so that we could get to automaticity, that's how we were going to focus with them. That literacy, same type of thing, sounding out, just teaching kids words, working with words, learning words themselves, and being the lead learners in their systems was huge. Another piece was families and school staff should be equal partners, understanding that although we always look to our teachers and our coaches and our principals as the experts in education. They know teaching, they know learning. We all know that they know teaching and learning. They went to school for many, many years to get to that point. What they're not experts at is the students, is as individual students. Families are experts of their kids. I can tell you, I know my son Jordan much better than anybody else in this room, and you can teach him, but I might be able to, but I can get to him a little bit better because I know his trigger points and how to get him where he needs to go. And I can also take that aspect and get support with that from you, from anybody else who's willing to listen or willing to talk to me. Core belief number 4 was responsibility for building partnerships between school and home. It has to rest primarily with the school staff. We're intimidating people. We're smart. Some in Lancaster, many of our families were low income and coming from particular perspectives where they had antagonistic relationships with schools from the very beginning. They didn't like school. They didn't do well in school. Some of those families did not do well in school. So their initial look to us was not as a friendly reminder. We had to be able to bridge that gap. And that's how we worked in specific ways to be able to do that. We'll get to that in just a second. We set the why with our leaders, basically focusing on the dual capacity framework. This was kind of like where this kind of looks like more of a tool. It is absolutely a why in our situation as well. We wanted to make sure that the why being set behind this was that our families weren't in a position our staff wasn't in a position at some point to really engage families. They didn't know how to engage some of our families. So we wanted to focus some of our time with our staff, training them how to work with their families. And we wanted to make sure that our families were able to feel that love so that they could come into the system and be able to have that work done with them. So we did all those pieces. We did all these pieces. And given all of this, it all linked into this whole idea of what we developed as our, basically as a matrix for our situation. The idea that we needed in every family engagement activity that we decided to push, we had to build relationships. We had to link it to learning, we had to address the differences. And we focused, and this is all, again, dual capacity framework work that we were able to get to or be able to work with through some of our LACO support. And we were able to understand and get to the point where we were not taking power, but we were sharing power with our families. So we were working in tandem with our families throughout our systems. We did in our system work early on to start to build into how we were going to, just like we do in reading and everything else, build tiers of support for our families to be able to figure out, or tiers of engagement for our families that were able to put us in a position so that they had a deep understanding of what and how we were doing things. And we were able to give it to them like that. And this is what it ended up looking like. You can see that little aspect between families in our district. We split it into 3 separate areas, the all some few type of a situation where we had all of our families getting offerings towards curriculum trainings, back to school nights, the fun stuff. Every family had aspects had pieces of that. We had the second tier who starts talking about training for families and creating support structures. And those trainers ended up becoming trainers of the system. So we started training our parents to train the system and train other parents as to how to be engaging in our systems. And then finally, the decision-making pieces who are turned into our community advisory councils, our school site councils. We had every one of our schools were Title I schools. So we innately had SSEs, superintendent's advisory councils and AAACs that were able to allow for that sharing of power and that supportive aspect that we provided earlier in that previous slide. All in all, these were our families. These are our kids. This was some of the work that we did in our district to be able to provide for pieces. So that resulted in huge reading and literacy fairs where we were giving away books, and we were giving away books. We were getting books donated, and we were engaging community. And when we were engaging community, that community was coming in. We had authors coming in and reading, like community authors coming in to read to our kids, coming in to work with our schools. We had various different foci in terms of even having our principals coming in. You can see right here one of my favorite principals that I've ever had the opportunity to work with, being able to sitting there and reading books. We had principals sitting on YouTube at night, making sure that their kids had a story before they went to sleep. All of those pieces were able to result in our families looking at us as though, we're in it with them. And I think that on all aspects of it was the biggest thing that we got out of all this. So I don't want to jump too much because I know I've got partners in this crime and I probably talked too much as it is. So I'm going to quiet myself at this point, and I'm sure there's going to be questions later on. So.
Great. Thank you, Jordan. And we will definitely have questions at the end. So I'm going to ask Denise to share her story and the work that she's been doing with the EAC, with PTA, and how you are building power for parents.
Thank you, Yolie. Yes, my name is Denise, and I'm a parent and family advocate and organizer, and I'm here in the Sacramento area, like Yolie mentioned. And I'm so grateful to speak here. I want to share, I first attended the California Reading Summit 2 years ago as an attendee and met some amazing people. So I want to encourage all of you that are watching, like connect by chat, because some of my most favorite people that I'm still connected with actually was an advocate in Goleta and is now a school board member. The value of this connection is a great opportunity. So I wanted to mention that. My cohort in crime, Amy, who I couldn't do this work without, is also here. So just want to honor and elevate. I would have never thought I'd be here speaking. So just want to say that. And I love the title of the summit. And as I think about our session, Parents as Change Agents for Reading Success, I had to look up the definition because I wanted to understand that it's someone who promotes change within a system and enables it to happen. Sorry for background noise, but that's what I'm here to chat about my experience. So Yolie mentioned PTA. PTA, a well understood term, like everybody's heard of PTA, but I want to tell you a little bit about how the PTA journey has continued for me and allowed me this space right now. My PTA journey started way back when. My two boys are grown. 1996, my oldest son was in elementary school. Fast forward, 2023, like I mentioned, my first visit to this summit also coincided when I was part of an amazing group of folks. We did a resolution. We were part of a committee. I couldn't have done it without those women, those champions on that. And you're going to see that picture in the middle. I understood the value of advocacy when a convention floor of 1,400 people all raised their voter cards in honor of equitable literacy for all students, which was our resolution. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, wait, this is a room full of people that care about kids, and I like this. So fast forward today, I continue to raise my hand because everybody in the state PTA system and even up to the national, we're all volunteers. We're doing this because we care about this work. So the collective and the collaborative. So I continue to raise my hand. I'm currently serving as president for 3rd District, Yolie mentioned. So this is supporting 145 schools in our region. And that includes Sacramento and then those surrounding counties. And I want to, though, go back. So what happened in between? And so what you see here is my youngest son when he was in 2nd grade. And I didn't discover this excerpt from the very first psychoeducational evaluation report until actually only a few years ago. But when I read this statement, Zachary verbalized that he knows he has trouble with behavior at school and that it is because he can't read. He further stated that since he can't read, he doesn't want to bother with classroom activities, participation. He exhibits advanced verbal communication skills and is a skilled conversationalist. So in 2014, when we were experiencing this, I was caught up in the middle of parent, special education, IEPs, all of that. And I share this picture and I share this phrase because I remember so many days when I would pick him up and his teacher would say, well, his behavior today was challenging. We had him in the classroom, but he was on the island, that island where kids get separated from the others, so he might not be disruptive. And it made me think about my own self back then, because I too felt alone on an island in an ocean, because when I was doing searching about dyslexia and all the rest of it in 2014, I did not have any of the resources that I have now. So I wanted to share that with you because it really is the importance of coalition building and this parent as change agent. So I'm going to jump forward. What I've come to learn and appreciate is that if you're going to be a change agent parent, there's 3 really important components that you want to grab hold of and take ownership of: the power of knowledge, the power of presence, and the power of coalition. I'm going to talk briefly about some of these things, I'm going to blaze through here because we don't have a lot of time, but I'm always up. My contact will be at the end. You guys can always reach out to me with any questions. So the power of knowledge. This was a big, important missing gap for me back then, because when a parent doesn't know and we start just searching, there is too much information, I will say. It's completely overwhelming. You don't know what works. You don't know what's right. You don't know what direction. So I want to just share with all of you folks, one of the best pieces of I think, curated information right now sits with what's called the Evidence Advocacy Center. And I was connected originally with the Evidence Advocacy Center, starting with the resolution, because Linda Diamond, who many of you, I presume, know and appreciate her, she was what I called my literacy fairy godmother. When we were writing the resolution, I relied on her, and she took my calls. She taught me through the process. She led me along. And so don't underestimate the value of the experts around you. Grab hold of their knowledge. Highly encourage you to check this out. So through this process, Linda asked me to co-lead with another amazing advocate. It's called the Parent and Family Advocates. We are a team. We're one of 9 teams within the Evidence Advocacy Center. And so we've curated a menu of resources that is enormously valuable, highly recommend. So as far as knowledge, information, please go there, check it out, because they're just experts. The power of presence. I love to say this, and to me, this is definitely a PTA perspective. So PTA is a very trusted organization, and it allows doors to be open. It puts you at the table, so to speak. But one of the things I've come to realize over the last couple of years is if you don't know how to keep your place at the table, the system has a really great way of shutting the door or keeping the door closed or silencing your voice if you're not being in a space where you can keep the conversation going. And a lot of times that means collaboratively, it means finding out how you align. But my very first time making a public comment at my school board was as a result of this work, like never before in all the years. And now I have. So the value of being able to learn what it takes to go before your school boards, the value to learn what it takes to be part of an advisory committee. Jordan mentioned this. So many points and pieces that he talked about speak to me, but the value to be a classroom volunteer. This has been something that is absolutely a goal for me, my own North Star, because what I've come to realize with my PTA role, the barriers that exist right now that allow parents to get into the classroom are enormous. We have one of our local school districts where within that district, there are more than 90 languages spoken. If we don't have the ability to allow our parents to get into the classroom, to be able to hear what the teachers are teaching, to understand what the teachers are teaching, and also gain the information that they need as well, that's a barrier. And we need to break those barriers down so that we can allow our parents back into the classroom where they can also gain the valuable information. And I would even posture it to say, if we've known this issue has been going on for decades, the parents we're talking about right now have been just as affected by failed literacy instruction. So they should be in that room too, because imagine what they can also gain.
Denise, one more minute.
You got it. The power of coalition. More than anything else, I just want to share the power of coalition. Every single group that we're part of, everybody has their own North Star, but we're all more alike than we're different. And so I really want to make sure we all recognize that we can come together, find those good partners that are doing the good work. And I'm going to leave this. So I heard this from Governor Newsom during COVID, and he mentioned this phrase, Ubuntu. And so I had to look that up. Philosophical concept. I am because you are. What this means is when we support our children to learn to read, they're going to become more effective members of our society. And when our society has more effective members, our society becomes stronger. So I truly believe it is the power of all of these things connected that will make parents as change agents. So thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Denise. I love that phrase and that concept of Ubuntu, and it's so real, and our families feel it and know it. And I think more and more of us need to do that as well. Thank you. Beautiful. And thank you for sharing your personal journey and all the resources and the evidence. and the EAC platform. And I think it's going to be in the chat. If you haven't put it in the chat, if you could do that, that would be great. All right, we're going to move on to Molly at Go Public Schools. So come on in, Molly, and share your story, your lessons learned, the way that you are engaging families, and ways that the audience that is with us today can also take some tools and resources back home.
Thank you, Yolie, and good morning, everyone. My name is Molly Moloney, and I'm Director of Policy and Data at Go Public Schools. And I am excited to share a bit about our work supporting families in leading literacy advocacy. If you're not familiar with Go, we are an education nonprofit that partners with families and their champions to advocate for educational equity. We work in local communities in California, especially West Contra Costa and Oakland in the Bay Area, and Fresno and other communities in the Central Valley, along with some statewide work as well. And at Go, we don't only work on literacy, but we've been on a literacy journey for the past 3+ years now. And it started with what we were hearing from the families we work with, who had real concerns about their children's reading progress and their sense that something wasn't right. And across most of the districts we work in, student literacy outcomes really are troubling, with only about 1 in 3 students reading on grade level. So we set out to learn together. We hosted workshops, we created resources, and for many of our families, and honestly many of our staff, this meant learning this whole new vocabulary, structured literacy and the science of reading, and having to relearn some things. But one takeaway is that our families are not blank slates. So they bring this deep expertise about their children and about their lived experiences. So our goal was to build on that family expertise and to help them make sense of complicated educational topics and give tools to advocate, first for their own children, and then, if ready, to advocate more broadly. So today I'm going to share with you a case study of this work in West Contra Costa Unified School District, which is where I live. In WCCUSD, literacy outcomes have been stagnant for more than a decade, with deep equity gaps between groups. And while some individual schools and teachers have moved towards structured literacy, and there really is some good work happening in some places in the district as a whole is still officially a balanced literacy district, using Lucy Calkins Units of Study as its Tier 1 program. So there is a need for change, and I do think an appetite for change, but also a lot of inertia that we are working with. So through our learning journey, we were able to connect with families and educators and community members who were really fired up about literacy. And they became the founding members of our Community-Led Committee, or CLC, on literacy. And so our role at Go with this committee isn't to lead the change ourselves. Rather, we want to support and amplify the leadership of our families. So early work with the CLC focused on listening to and connecting families with each other, because a lot of them were kind of in it on their own before. Building leadership skills, learning about advocacy strategies and tactics, and conducting what we call research meetings. So last year, our West Contra Costa CLC chose to focus their advocacy on the Reading Difficulties Risk Screener. So because the screener is now state mandated, we saw it as a strategic entry point, an opportunity to move past some of the resistance to change. The district had to adopt and implement a screener. They couldn't say, well, we just don't have the money for that this year. So the CLC wanted to make sure the implementation wasn't just about compliance, that it leads to meaningful change in literacy practices and outcomes. And just as importantly, our families wanted to ensure that parents are true partners in this process, from planning to communication to understanding the results and shaping the next steps. So the CLC worked through our 4 phases of our advocacy campaigns, developing their campaign base, looking for different solutions, advocating in a variety of ways, and having a win, which I'll talk about in just a moment. And currently we're on the accountability phase for that. So the campaign required a mix of strategies and tactics, both ones that were highly visible, but also many that were more behind the scenes. But it did culminate in a school board action and public comments. And we did manage to get a big win. The vast majority of the CLC's recommendations were adopted into the district's plan. And this was a case where the district truly listened and changed elements of their plan to incorporate the feedback from our CLC members. That is not something that always happens when we're advocating, for sure. And the district's plan really did go well beyond the state's minimum requirements, including commitments to share results from the screener publicly at board meetings, which I actually just did last week, and provide workshops to families on how to interpret the results. And there literally is one happening tonight, providing initial results in time for parent-teacher conferences. That one may or may not be happening, so we're going to be mobilizing on that a bit, and other elements, including some for the educators in our CLC as well. But it really was a meaningful win for our families and a first step. But a final takeaway is that after an initial win, really significant work remains. So this year, the focus is on implementation and accountability. It's a little bit less exciting, but it's probably more important. Making sure what's written in the plan becomes real in classrooms and for families. And not just like checking off the boxes of completion, but are our families like seeing real action and change? So we'll be monitoring and advocating where needs to be. So I'll just close with this. When families have the tools and data and confidence to advocate, I really do believe they can make meaningful, lasting change in our schools. And at Go, we are honored to walk alongside them on that journey, and we know our work is just beginning. So thank you, and please reach out if you would like to talk about any of this further or connect. And I will also be adding some resources into the chat. And thank you.
Great. Thank you, Molly. I have to say, you may be focused in mostly Northern California and Bay Area, but those of us in LA and in Southern California look to Go Public Schools. We've connected with you, have partnered with you, and the work that you do is always so inspiring. And we look to you in so many ways. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Same for the work that Jordan led in Lancaster. We're all learning from each other. Denise's work with PTA and the EAC. And really, this is the point, is that we don't have to do this alone. We've got a lot of tools and resources and ways in which we can share our work with each other. So thank you for the 3 of you. I'm now going to share my slides and share the work at Families and Schools. And let me just do a quick, there, okay. So Families and Schools is based in Los Angeles. This year we turned 25 years old. We're a quarter of a century old in leading work around authentic family engagement. And although our biggest footprint has been in LA, our work has been statewide. And we've really centered in the last 3 years the work of family engagement to one of the first and most important milestones, because we wanted to sort of make the case that family engagement is a strategy. It's a strategy to improve student outcomes. We learn that all the time from Dr. Karen Mapp. You guys saw Dr. Jordan Goines share the dual capacity framework. That's, the work for years of Dr. Karen Mapp. And really emphasizing back to the work at Families and Schools that family engagement serves the purpose to improve student outcomes. And that first important outcome that we measure is whether kids can read on grade level by third grade. And so at Families and Schools, we have anchored our focus on family to show that family engagement can move the needle and is a powerful force when you have parents involved and engaged and treated as truly equal partners. And so in 2023, we launched our Read LA campaign. It's a campaign to ensure that all children, again, because our biggest footprint is in LA, we're focused on moving the needle in LA so that all kids can read and thrive. And I love sharing what our goal is. Our goal is to flip the data. And the only way we're going to flip the data is if we empower and work alongside parents. And by flipping the data, what I mean is let's move away from 70% of our kids who are not reading on grade level to by 2030, we will have 70% of third graders that are reading on grade level. And we mean all kids. Kids from low-income communities, English learners, kids that are with us that are part of the foster care system, kids that are maybe homeless. We know that all children can learn to read. And one of the ways in which we are addressing and making sure that we reach our 2030 goal is by focusing on two pieces of work, the system piece and the parent piece. And I want to make a distinction here about why we do both of these pieces of work together. 2 years ago, when we launched Read LA, I had a colleague who was very much on the fence around science of reading and evidence-based literacy instruction. And many of you know that there are folks that still, we need to bring along. And so she wasn't sure if she wanted to be part of our Read LA coalition and asked me, why don't you guys just keep doing what you've been doing? Because it was so wonderful when you just gave away books in backpacks to parents. And for a moment, I thought, well, yes, of course. But the fact that our kids can't read is not a parent problem. It's not that parents can't and won't and don't read to their children. It's because the system hasn't made it possible for instruction in the classroom to lead to kids reading on grade level. And so it is a system problem, but parents play a powerful role in changing that system and in being active supporters of their children's literacy at home and advocate for them at school. So that's why we launched the Read LA campaign. I'm going to take just 30 seconds to show you how we started the work with our families. We did a series of community sessions throughout the LA Unified region. We did 10 over the spring of 2024 and reached hundreds of parents. And I'm going to see if I can play this video. I'm going to skip a lot because it's a 6-minute video and we don't have the time. But I just want you to get a feel for what happened in these sessions, because it was the beginning of hundreds of parents in LA becoming aware, not only of what the data was telling us, but that they had the power to do something about it. Starting with learning, what is science of reading? Why do we have this crisis? How does the brain work? How do I help my child? All right, so let me see if I can play this for you guys. Can you hear it?
Entonces, no todo lo cantábamos. Bastantes, las canciones de quién cantaban, son las canciones que tocaban.
Conexiones o conexiones entre partes del cerebro que normalmente no se comunican en las conexiones. Esto permite que su hijo se convierta en un lector competente. No importa si se comunica en inglés o español. La investigación muestra que el aprendizaje del lenguaje temprano
And uh, what um so think about your life. Think of
All right, that's just a little snippet of the sessions that we held. We had hundreds of parents the first time they were learning about science of reading, about foundational skills, about how the brain works, about questions to ask. And do you know that 99% of families that attended every single session all said, why hasn't anybody ever given us this information before? Why do we not know about this? And what's next? When are you coming back? What is the next session that you can do for us? And so with that, we thought of all the ways that we could continue to engage families. Oops, I want to do this. I'll talk about that right now. Here are some tools, and I'm going to make these available for you. We'll all share our slides with you. We borrowed and adapted this tool from Sacramento Literacy Foundation. So again, like we share, we learn with each other, we adapt to our community. And so we created this, and this is what the families in those community sessions were exploring. And to Molly and Jordan and Denise's point, families already come with wisdom. They come with knowledge, maybe not all of this, but they have a sense of this. And they started to talk about ways in which they're doing some of this already. And what more can we do? We also made it available in Spanish, and we're going to translate it in many other languages because in LA, we have over 100 languages spoken at our schools. They also learned about how the brain learns to read, and we broke it down so it didn't feel scary or complicated. Some folks are like, that's too much information for parents, but parents were telling us, this is great. We love this. This is helpful. And then we launched our literacy ambassadors because we knew that we couldn't reach as many parents as there are. There are 130,000 TK to third graders in LA Unified. And our goal is to reach as many of those. But we knew we couldn't do that ourselves. So we created the Families in Schools Literacy Ambassadors program. And we started with a cohort of 20 in a community that actually proposed this idea. So we led with what families were telling us. I'm going to take one more minute and I'm almost done. And we started with 20. Our goal was to get to 80 by the 5th month. We are now at 88 ambassadors. And these are community leaders, parents that are out in the community at parks, at soccer fields, at churches, at community fairs, at schools, talking about early literacy, about science of reading, about the 6 foundational skills and more. The picture at the bottom are parents that then decided they want to do what are called community platicas. So these are little conferences, coffee clutches, and then the photo above is the ones that were able to go to Sacramento to advocate for AB 1454. And this is all of them there at the hearing. This is the assembly hearing when it was unanimously adopted. We had all of our literacy ambassadors that were able to go, flew up there, testified. And I don't have time to share it with you because I want to leave time for Q&A. So I'm going to stop my share here. And really, our goal is to share as much of this information with you, how it started, what we have learned. We've also just released our Read LA app. So we have an app. It's in beta form right now, and that app will be available to all of the LAUSD families and anybody actually who wants to have it. And every week, parents by grade level will get tips on what to do at home to support what's going on in the classroom. Luckily, LA Unified has adopted a Science of Reading aligned curriculum. It's called CKLA. And so these tips are aligned to what's happening in the classroom with that CKLA curriculum that they get. And the app is available in over 130 languages. So that's a little bit about our work, what we have learned, the way in which we adapt and borrow and share information with each other. And any of what we have that could be helpful to you, we will give it away to you. We will share with you what we have learned. Okay, that's a lot of talking at you guys, and we were able to stretch our time to 11 o'clock instead of 10:55. So we've got 4 minutes to take some Q&A. So either you could do it in the chat, or I don't know if we could do like real. I'm going to see if I can bring you guys back up. Okay, I see Nikita. I'm going to have you try to come on.
Good morning.
There you are. Yay. Hi.
Hi. It is an absolute honor and a pleasure. I have attended many webinars with you presenting, and the work that you have done is tremendously impactful. So many, many thanks to you. Today, I am here on the heels of a student celebration night for our center, where for the last 13 years, we've really worked as a private institute trying to advocate for families and continue the conversation of building education around the science of reading. My question to you is, when we have districts like a behemoth of an Irvine Unified School District, which has tremendous immigrant population that is coming in with lots of ideas about the success of the school district, which will then automatically gain success for their kids, and that is not translating. What can be done to inform parents who are resourceful, the exact opposite perhaps of a lot of LA Unified parents, to say, you need to educate, you need to learn what is actually taking place, because we're not seeing a lot of science of reading research or actual curricula being used?
That's a really great question, and I'll invite any of my colleagues to jump in. The question is, how can we equip immigrant families in really ensuring that their school district, in this case Irvine, provides the supports that those kids need? Was that right, Nikita?
Yes, thank you.
Molly, do you want to jump in?
Absolutely. I think one thing is equipping parents with the understanding of like what's the reality in the district, what's the data showing, where are there rooms for growth, and not being satisfied, until there's 100% of students able to read. We saw a few people in the chat really talking about in higher performing districts where people say our job is done here, when we still know many kids are being left behind, and are more likely to kind of continue on with some non-evidence-based practices. And really, we know for all of our students, they're going to benefit from that shift to structured literacy. So it takes, educating your school board members, educating your district central office if needs be, and really being a visible presence there. I think, in the board meetings, in the parent advisory committees, and showing up there, but it is not easy. So I don't want to make it sound like, and then your problem solved, but visibility and working together makes such a difference.
We're going to probably get knocked off and into the big room. I just got a note, but reach out to any of us. When we get back into the room, we'll be sure, I'll put a chat with all of our emails, and happy to continue the conversation with you, share any resources that you have.